All right, this is a video covering knife safety. It is in addition to a handout that you're provided for the Winters High School culinary class. So let's get right into talking about some of the most important safety concepts for use of knives. All right, first, use the right knife for the job and never use a knife for any purpose other than cutting. Have an old-fashioned non-stainless steel butchering knife that's missing a tip, perhaps used as a screwdriver. Okay, so these things are not screwdrivers, they're not can openers, their purpose is for cutting food. All right, and then as far as using the right knife for the job, our standard chef's knife, either in the 8-inch or 10-inch. This curved knife is more of a butchering knife, a scimitar. We've got skinnier knives that are more for a boning knife or fillet. Here is a serrated knife that's offset, good for cutting bread and soft fruits and vegetables. We have small paring knives for smaller jobs. Okay, have a protective sheath. All right, so a variety of knives in here, and all of them have blades and they can cut food, but there are some that are more suited for jobs better than others. All right, the next thing to tell you is that sharp knives are safer than dull knives. Keep the knives sharp, and that may not make sense to you. How could a sharp knife be safer? Well, if we take a knife like this green plastic knife that's dedicated to like lettuce, because I know it's plastic and its structure is not metal or whatever, or these practice knives that are coated with tape, I'm probably going to be a lot more casual with them because I know that they've got a protected blade. All right, when a knife is sharper, and we keep our knives extremely sharp, it does its job the way it's supposed to, cutting through food directly. That means also if your fingers or any of the body part get in the way, it'll cut through those as well. All right, and so when we have a sharp knife, we don't have to put extreme pressure on using it, whereas if I had a dull knife, I might start making, hacking, unsafe movements with it. All right, I do not want to drop a knife. That is a nice knife to make this point, but if you ever drop a knife, just let it go. Don't try to catch it by the handle, hoping that you will, because you might actually end up catching it by the blade. So don't make a habit of dropping knives, but if a knife drops, let it drop. All right, we're always going to carry the knife with the tip pointing downwards and the cutting edge away from our body. Okay, so this is the cutting edge. This one's protected with tape. The tip will be down. It'll be away from our body. So if I bring the camera around, you're going to see that the knife, okay, is hidden from view because it's on the side of my body. The tip is down. I'm not walking through the room swinging the knife to and fro. Okay, and I'm probably going to have it in my knife dominant hand, or if I'm carrying something else. Okay, and don't overthink it like I have to put it to the outside of a person. You're more likely going to fumble it. All right, but I'm going to be communicating like beside you, knife. And if I came online, behind you, knife. All right, and with other things, I'll have my hand out, so if you get too close to me, we might have to push you away. All right, the next thing, we'll stay out here with this. If you go to hand a knife to someone, you're going to hand it to them with the handle towards the person and the blade away from your hand. So the masking tape is the blade. You do not hand it to them with the blade towards your hand, because if they pulled it out of your hand dramatically, they're going to cut your palm. Give it to them with the handle towards them, blade away. So if I handed it to myself, it would be like this. We'll practice this in class. We don't have a lot of occasions where you have to hand someone a knife. The best thing is just to leave it on the cutting board where someone else can access it. All right, the next thing to tell you is that we want to avoid communicating with the knife, so doing lots of hand gestures, pointing with it, like take this thing and put it over there. I want you to take this and go put it like that. Okay, so if you talk with your hands a lot, put the knife down first. When you are cutting, we're always going to cut away from our body. Okay, so if we had a reason to cut something, it would be away from our body, never towards our body. All right, and you need to make sure that you're aware that that applies to potato peelers as well. So away from your body. Okay, these things have blades on them as well. All right, and speaking of potato peelers and these small paring knives, all right, never good habit to cut something into your hand. Put it down on a board and cut it. Avocado toast in recent years, we're hearing about a phenomenon known as avocado hand. More and more people in the summer are coming to the emergency room with major stitches because they're cutting avocados into the hand the way they should not. All right? Other things that you need to be aware of, it could be sources of blades that could cut you, could be our foil and our saran wrap. So this on the edge is not quite a hacksaw that could cut through like metal pipe, but it is sharp enough to cut this foil, and the saran wrap can do the same. So if you pull this, make sure that you get your fingers away. Seen too many people getting bloodied up knuckles, getting too close and tearing them. When it comes time to cut, we're going to tell you never try to cut that last little piece. So if you're working with something and you have to get to a point where you're just holding it like with fingertips or tweezers and cutting it, it's time to be done with that. All right? We're never going to keep a knife in hot water for extended periods of time. The wood handles may crack. Now, we don't really have wood handles in here. Ours are rubber and got a bit of grip to them. Okay? But we're telling you things that you need to know at home as well. You never want to go searching for a knife in hot soapy water. That's why it shouldn't be in soapy water to begin with. At home, I don't believe that you should wash your knives in the dishwasher. The chemicals are not good for the metal. Okay, and then also the fact that these are in the dishwasher, however it's been loaded, might be kind of booby-trapped for someone unloading the dishwasher not knowing. All right, in this class, we're going to say for sure these knives are washed in the sinks, okay, in the kitchen areas. They never leave the kitchen area to go to the back of the room where we do dishes. Okay, they get washed directly in the sink, and we'll give you instructions how to wash them. They'll be left out on the counter on a certain mat to dry. And when they're dry, they'll be put back into our drawers for storage. Okay? And if you ever have to leave a knife where it's not being used, leave it in plain sight. Boom. You can't help but not notice a knife in the middle of the cutting board. I know some people think they're being helpful by doing something like this. Well, that's just like a hidden knife. All right? Now let's come out to the video focus to show you where we actually store our knives. Okay, so in this drawer, when there is a full set of knives, all these slots are full. Okay, so this is missing right now this blade. So I can come by, double check what's going on with their knives by seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chef's knives and 3 of these serrated blades. We often have a sharpening steel in here as well, but I've taken those away to make sure you don't use them improperly. Okay? All right, so again, our knives, when they're done, we will make sure that you know how to wash them, or I will wash them for you to make sure it's done correctly. Okay? Because getting your hands near this blade can be a little treacherous when you're washing them. We don't want you to hurt yourself while you're cleaning up. All right? We're going to move on to talking now about cutting boards. You need to be using a cutting board at all times, okay? And we have a variety of cutting boards in here. The thing you need to know for starting off with vegetables is the primary board is green. The other board you could use for this is white, okay? These have a foot on them that keeps them from not sliding around. There's also an easy carry hook, okay? So if you had to pick this up, it's not shown on camera, but it's hovering with the hook to take it somewhere else or to let it sit up to dry. Okay, they're reversible in the fact that you could use either side, but if you make one side dirty, you don't just flip it over. It does have inches on the side if you need to gauge. It's not going to show on camera how big you're cutting something. So for vegetables, green or white, and with these non-slip feet, this isn't going to be moving around. This is our go-to cutting board for vegetable and fruit prep, but if you happen to be working with some produce that is going to generate quite a bit of juice, like say cutting melons or tomatoes, even though this is smaller, this would be great for tomatoes, not so great for melons. We do have some boards that have a trough in them, so this bamboo board. Now at home, if you don't have these types of cutting boards, you're going to see that your cutting board might slide around. This, the whole table moves, that doesn't slide around. We do not want a cutting board that's sliding around. So the trick we use is putting a damp towel underneath, or if you have random pieces of shelf liner, like it's rubber matting that's used sometimes for glasses in cabinets. You put this wet damp towel on top, this is not going to slide around. And that's the same case for this smaller whiteboard for smaller jobs, and this gray board as well. The gray board's great for small jobs, and it's flexible for pouring something in. Notice please that I've put cutting boards on top of cutting boards on top of cutting boards. Our cutting boards are extremely clean. You keep them that way. They're used for prepping food. You need to not be in the habit at all, so don't even start, please, of putting things on your cutting board. And I'm talking like, I'm working on a cutting board, I got something going on, I got this bowl, and then I put that on top of my cutting board. Whatever was on this table that's on the bottom of the bowl has now contaminated your cutting board. So try to avoid that. All right, so that's a little bit about our cutting boards and how they don't slide around. Okay, we're going to be using these green and white boards like we said for produce. All right, and you want to make sure you get these size. There are larger green and white ones that don't fit in the dishwasher, so these can go in the dishwasher. If you use a larger green and white one, you'll have to wash that by hand in the dish pit. All right, and when it's time for us to get some fruits and vegetables ready to be processed, you always want to rinse those first before you cut them. Okay, only when you see that something is in a container like in water, that I've already rinsed it and put it in there, can you assume that it's already been rinsed, especially if it's in packaging, okay, or in a bag, then you know that that has not been rinsed. And we do our rinsing of the items in our prep sink. There are colanders around. Don't let the food item touch the inside of the sink as you rinse it, okay? And then we're gonna go ahead and get you ready for talking about the way that we hold our knives. Okay?